Liz Aylor is a holistic nutritionist, GAPS practitioner, functional diagnostic practitioner, and a certified strength and conditioning specialist with a BS in kinesiology. At age 22, Liz battled severe depression, an eating disorder, and multiple gut infections. She healed and optimized her body naturally from the inside out, rebuilt her metabolism, lost 50 pounds, built lean muscle, and drastically improved her marathon time. She turned her process into a world-renowned 90-day whole-body transformation program, helping A-list celebrities, pro athletes, recording artists, and thousands of women heal their bodies from the inside out naturally and sustainably. As a functional diagnostic practitioner, she uncovers the root behind gut dysfunction, hormone imbalance, and metabolic slowdown. Liz proves your body is capable of incredible things when it is nourished and prioritized. Have you tried everything to eliminate autoimmune symptoms like joint pain and digestion issues without relief? Are you struggling to keep up with the demands of life due to chronic fatigue? Does chronic pain keep you from doing the things you love in life? If you are feeling defeated and hopeless, you are not alone. I am Ashley Cavolo, a busy working mom who once struggled with debilitating autoimmune symptoms. I too felt like giving up after trying every possible solution without relief from symptoms like joint pain and stiffness, painful digestion issues, relentless chronic fatigue, and embarrassing brain fog. Until it was time to stop allowing the pain to control my life. I dove into the root cause of autoimmune diseases and was shocked to find the answer is not found in endless doctor visits, harsh medications, expensive supplements, or strict food lists. The secret to healing autoimmune symptoms is found within the specific habits that reduce inflammation and heal symptoms quickly and naturally. I applied what I learned and found relief from my symptoms in a matter of weeks. 7 years later, I am living a pain-free life free of autoimmune symptoms. I turned this discovery into a self-paced program called the Autoimmune Reboot, where I share my secrets and my step-by-step process to help you heal your symptoms quickly so you can live a pain-free life. This podcast is for you if you are ready to eliminate joint pain so you can jump out of bed every morning pain-free. Heal and maintain a healthy gut so you can enjoy your favorite foods again without that uncomfortable bloat. Go from no energy and endless coffee breaks to an abundance of natural energy and stamina to tackle the day. Eliminate uncomfortable autoimmune symptoms such as bloating, brain fog, constipation, diarrhea, digestion pain, inflammation, joint stiffness, skin rashes, and many more. Living a pain-free life is easier and closer than you think. I can't wait to show you what I discovered. Refresh your coffee and let's dive in. Liz, welcome to the show. I am so happy to have you here today. You have helped celebrities, athletes, and thousands of women heal their bodies from the inside out with your expertise. You are incredibly knowledgeable when it comes to the body and root cause treatment. But before all of that, you experienced your own personal health journey. So if you don't mind, I would love for you to share your story with us.
Absolutely, and thank you for having me today. I'm gonna try to make it short and sweet, even though it was a lifelong journey. But in simple terms, I was born with a lot of chronic health issues. I had eczema, rosacea all over my face and body. And when I was 13, I ended up bumping into a girl at school, and that kind of triggered everything. She had lice all the time, and my OCD, it went through the roof. I wouldn't go back to school. I ended up getting homeschooled. I was put on antidepressants and I gained over 30 pounds in 1 year. I was eating my feelings away and the medication gave me heart arrhythms. It was not my best time. And over those next few years, I got myself to a place through doing therapy, changing medications, all of that, where I ended up getting back to school. But my health kind of just kept taking that downward spiral. I was having gut issues. I was over 200 pounds now at age 13. I hated everything about myself. I was bullied, called fish face, fugly, because I still had all that eczema, that rosacea going on. And my friend was vegetarian. So I'm like, let's go vegetarian. She looks lean. She looks great. We're doing it. And I lost 25 pounds and doing that vegetarian diet mixed with Dance Dance Revolution. It was like my jam. Yes, I loved it. I also started boxing and I found this
Mm.
hole in the wall boxing gym. My first class, I couldn't even make it 5 minutes because I was so out of shape. I wanted to throw up. That's when I went into the Dance Dance Revolution. But then once I lost the weight, I went back. I was able to complete a class, and that ended up being my new form of exercise. Not really kind of knowing what to do with nutrition, I went towards Special K, 0 calorie water, just things that were labeled, low calories. And my calories just started going down and down and down. People started complimenting me. I kept losing weight, and I went from almost 200 pounds. Now I'm 16 years old and I'm down to 90 pounds. And I wasn't doing anything on purpose. I was literally craving the Special K, but it turned into a very unhealthy relationship. I would train very, very hard all week, 1 to 2 hours a day, barely eat. On the weekend, sit in my room, binge on around 5 to 7,000 calories, gain 5 or 6 pounds, and have this back and word spiral. I had to come to that realization that I had an issue, and I did, I worked on myself. I worked on my self-love. I got myself back to a healthy weight from there. That's when everything spiraled again. When I went to college, I ended up going raw vegan. You can see a little trend here with
Wow.
my little, that's like, if you guys don't know what raw vegan is, it's, I was doing the 80-10-10 diet. So I was eating fruits, vegetables, up to 50 bananas a day sometimes.
Wow.
And I was eating organic and everything. I ended up getting 15 types of parasites, H.
Mm.
pylori, and SIBO. And I looked 6 months pregnant. I spent my whole college years, couldn't go to the bathroom, chronic stomach pain, 30 pounds of toxemia in my stomach, going to all these healing centers while in college, while studying, while trying to train for marathons. And no one was able to heal me. I spent over $20,000. I was on very limited food. Like I said, chronic stomach pain, gas, bloating. And it took my whole college years and everything for just me to figure out what was going on my body. And I ended up, getting my degree in kinesiology. I became a strength and conditioning specialist. I became a holistic nutritionist, an FDN practitioner, and a GAPS practitioner, and I healed my body. When I did get out of college, I ended up going to my bodybuilding era. I always wanted to build my body. So, of course, I got off the vegan diet. I went back towards eating meat, and I got my gut health to a healthy place. And I spent 5 years building my body, bodybuilding. I got my weight back up to 180. I was squatting over close to 300 pounds, and I felt beast mode. And then I lost 50 pounds in 9 months sustainably. And then that's when I really just started sharing my journey with everybody. I documented everything, and that's when I launched my business. But with everything, there's always an in between. And after COVID, I moved home to Florida. In Miami, I ended up with chronic mold toxicity. So after healing my body, I ended up back in a really bad hole. I figured out I had that, and I have MTHFR gene mutation. I had reverse T3 through the roof, and I had to heal myself again. So I learned through my journey, and I love healing people because I don't want anyone to feel sick. And I look at the whole body versus just here's a symptom, let's go after that. And I really believe that body transformation, in order to get to your healthy body weight, which is different for everyone, lean, strong, energy, gut health, you need the healthy body. And if you don't have the healthy body, you're not going to achieve a sustainable result with that healthy body weight for you.
You are a prime example of taking control of your own health
Yeah.
and your life. And I always say that health is the foundation of our existence, and everything else comes after health. So it really truly influences everything we do. So I would love for you to touch on why your experience and your journey has influenced the importance of root cause healing.
Absolutely. So As I mentioned, I work with women all around the world now. And when I started my business, it was really focused since I was doing the bodybuilding on macros, eating clean. But what I figured out is that so many women that come to me that are 30, 40, 50 plus, they could be eating the cleanest diet out there, but still not be getting the results or feeling the best. They're dealing with cravings, low energy. Now, with going through the second puberty of life, I call it, which is perimenopause, 10 to 15 years, where you're losing muscle at a faster rate. Now our body composition is changing, our hormones are changing, our metabolism's changing. So by not focusing on the root cause, and 60% of women actually go undiagnosed with thyroid issues because the doctors don't even check the right thyroid hormones. They only do the TSH and T4, not the active T3, is there's so many missing elements, and it makes fat loss so much harder because you could be eating the cleanest diet and not being able to achieve your goals, or pushing so hard to get there, but dealing with chronic low energy, chronic fatigue, low libido, joint pain, bloating. And it doesn't matter if you get to your goal weight. If you're dealing with all of those issues, that is not a life to live. We don't want to be living in pain. But when I was going through my health journey too, is I had this layer of fluid all over my abs. I felt chronic pain and inflammation through my body. I had days where my motivation was so low because of my thyroid and everything, where I didn't even want to train, let alone move it and even feed my
Yeah.
dog. Bending over was too much.
Yeah.
So I learned by healing the body and getting to the root cause, my energy came back. My abs started popping, not by cutting my calories. And I saw my whole body composition change by focusing on the root cause and the health aspect.
And I've touched on my own personal journey on this show before. I too went through terrible gut issues to the point that I couldn't eat. It was so painful, but yet I was so bloated. And
Yeah.
it's impossible to find that energy level and for your body to get the nutrients it needs when you're in that state. So what you are talking about is a prime example of treating the root cause of your gut issues, because everything else will fall into place. And I'd love for you to talk about some of the root causes you're looking for when looking at gut health, but also autoimmune issues as well.
I love it. So people think that the gut is just like I'm bloated or I'm constipated, and that is a gut issue, but that's not the truth. There's so many different things. Number one, the gut brain connection. So
Mhm.
depression, anxiety, lack of motivation all the time. That's one aspect. Also joint pain and inflammation throughout the whole body, retaining water. That's another. Um, Constipation, of course, running to the bathroom, IBS, they call it, several
Mhm.
times a day. Yeah, I'm like,
Yep.
I call that is I don't know what's going on with you, so you got IBS. Acid reflux is another big one. And
Mhm.
even the skin. I have clients come to me with chronic cystic acne. They've been on Accutane, which destroys the good and bad bacteria, which then they're down the life and they got all these gut issues now. And they're like, whoa, what happened? But your skin is the mirror of your gut. So if we got
Mm.
yeast, bacteria, things going on, that's going to
Yeah.
come out through your skin. So my eczema rosacea went away when I healed my gut, and I was using every steroid cream, ointment, you name it, on my
Mm.
face. Some other things that we look at, autoimmune disorders, looking at thyroid issues. If we have iron issues, I have clients with a lot of, they have to do iron transfusions and everything because we're not absorbing, assimilating our nutrients. And then if you say, well, I haven't taken antibiotics in a long time, we have to look at our food quality because there could be antibiotics in the water. If
Yep.
we're not choosing the right meats and everything, that could be, have antibiotics in that as well. If you were on things like Accutane, if you were a C-section baby, if you were bottle fed, all of these things impact your gut microbiome and the development through a baby as you're a child. Even if your mom, your health history, you come from them. So
Mm.
Gut issues aren't just I'm bloated, I have a gut issue, or I'm bloated, so I have parasites. Now I'm going to try to this big parasite cleanse. No, it's looking at your overall health, your mood, your hormones, your joint issues. Were you taking the antibiotics? What did we do in the past to lead us to this place to where our health is not feeling optimal at that point?
Hmm.
Does that kind
I
of answer your question with that?
Absolutely. And I think you touched on something that we don't talk about enough, and it is our brain and our emotions and all of these feelings that we deal with on a daily basis that we don't realize could be connected to our gut health. I personally can attest to this. My temper, my ability to handle stress, the brain fog, all of these things improved when I improved my gut health. I think it's so important to talk about that one piece because we're so quick to jump to medications for depression, anxiety, and to think that we could fix our gut and
Yeah.
see relief in all of those areas.
Can
So,
I add one thing to that?
yes.
One thing that I want to bring up there is we all think we need more protein in our diet, but if we're, getting older, our stomach acid is low. HCl is actually what denatures protein, breaks it up into the amino acids that you need for building muscle and for making all of your neurotransmitters, the serotonin, all of the happy hormones. So if we have diminished of our HCl, then that could actually be impacting our muscle growth and our brain. But we don't want to just add in an HCl because if you have gastritis or you have H. pylori, it can make things worse for you. So that's why, looking at a root cause, I have clients that are building muscle now, post menopause, and they feel the strongest ever, but it's because we focused on their gut, not cutting their
Yeah.
calories or doing any extremes.
Yeah. So if somebody comes into you with these symptoms, what are some of your first steps?
It's very different for everyone. I do a discovery call where I deep dive. I ask a lot of questions. I kind of say, you know what? I'm going to do almost like a rapid fire with you, and I'm going to pull some puzzle pieces together. I ask about their antibiotics that they were on, where they were C-section baby, when did everything start, what they're dealing with. I ask their bowel movements, their gut motility, their diet. So I do a full deep dive into everything. I ask if they've done testing, what we've been tested for, when all those labs were at. And it really is dependent, though, on the individual where I go from there. If I feel like we need to do more testing, I am an FDN practitioner. I have some clients where I do mold, myotoxin testing, and GI map stool tests. I have some clients where it's more hormones. We do a Dutch test just to see more root cause, especially if I'm dealing with clients that have like severe mast cell activation and all these crazy histamine issues and everything. And they've lived in, Florida or Texas or these high places for mold. Like I had a client with MS, Hashimoto's, and Lyme's, and she went years with no answers. She's in the construction industry. She had a
Mm,
mold that was mimicking estrogen, causing her crazy hot flashes and everything. And she had 20 other molds in there. We have her in the best place of her life right now because we got her an answer too after 2 decades of no answers. So that's, to me, is
wow.
huge. But nothing starts with, and I think this is kind of what a lot of individuals don't understand, is you go to a functional practitioner or even a doctor, and I'm not a doctor, I'm not here to diagnose, but the doctor says, okay, you have this, we're going to kill this with this medication. You go to a functional doctor, you have this on your labs, we're going to kill it with all these herbs. You're killing things regardless, but they look at the paper and they don't look at the individual. And a lot of the women that come to me, when we're not sleeping, we're under chronic stress, we're not going to the bathroom, like we got thyroid issues, we have all these things going on. You never kill first. I focus the
Mm,
first month on restoring vitality to the person, opening up their detox pathways, getting you pooping again without depending on laxatives, or getting you the other way, not running to the bathroom 24/7 to where you can't leave the house. If we
mm,
don't have our body properly opened up with those detox pathways and start supporting, and we go into a kill phase, you are going to continue to deplete your body, break it down, and all that stuff is going to come right back because you did not set up the environment. We're going to take a step back, and it's not even a step back because it brings us 10 steps forward in the long run because we're actually getting the inflammation down, opening everything up, and starting to restore your body.
This is where you and I are so incredibly aligned. And I am
I love
so happy that you brought this approach up. Our bodies need such, honestly, simple things when we get down to it. And when we don't give it those things, it doesn't function properly. So we have to get the body functioning the way it's supposed to function. I would love for you to talk about the importance of food quality, the types of nutrient-dense foods that actually support the body.
Okay, I want to go back to my bodybuilder style because I feel
Okay.
like a lot of women, we want weight loss. So we think, okay, what did I do when I was in my 20s? Yeah, we're in our 30s, 40s and beyond. Things are completely different. So we hear too, protein. You got to hit your protein. So what I see a lot of women do is we go toward convenience, not saying it's a bad thing, but having bars and shakes at every meal is not going to nourish your body the way that Whole Foods does. And then we see all of these different diet dogmas out there like keto, fast, carnivore, where we have to put a name to it and become that. And if we eat off of it, we fail. But we're coming from such a standard diet, and then we go to an extreme and we do something that's not sustainable.
Yeah.
So the way that I address diet, because I've done vegan, raw vegan, fruitarian, carnivore, keto, I lived off of 3 foods for almost, I would say close to 2 decades because of how bad my mast cell activation was and how food fear driven I was. I don't look at the diet, I look at the individual and I build their nutrition protocol, not diet, nutrition protocol to their lifestyle and their metabolic type. So does that mean you need 6 meals a day to build muscle and fast your metabolism like a bodybuilder? No. If someone has gut issues, maybe they need actually time between the meals to stimulate the migrating motor complex. But in simplicity, we want to get balanced meals. We want to make sure we're getting a whole food source of protein. That's going to have a 20% thermogenic effect on the body, and it acts as your natural Ozempic. It's going to help make you feel full and satiated, just like how Ozempic. Then we want to make sure we're getting enough fiber because fiber is going to nourish all the good bacteria in the gut, but everybody's body is different. So if we have a lot of gut issues going on, we may need to do lower fiber for some time to get the inflammation down because it may be aggravating and triggering. Some people can handle that and they need to do more. So it's again dependent on the individual, and getting the healthy fats for the absorption of the fat soluble vitamins at a meal. So many women skip fats because they think it's bad for us, but it absorbs all those fat soluble nutrients and it slows down the absorption of the carbohydrates for insulin spike. And then of course carbs at each meal. So if we're focusing on whole foods and we're having those, carb, fat, protein, the balanced meal, that is going to make a huge impact on your health, your gut, your digestion, and even like your hunger and satiety cues. If you're just putting liquid calories, shakes and stuff that have all these gums and thickeners leaving you gassy and bloated, that have all these citric acids and sucralose and sweeteners that for some people increase the insulin and make them crave more because they impact your gut microbiome. And then you're wondering, why am I dealing where I'm starving with all these cravings and feeling bloated all the time? Well, let's look at our diet. And there's no bad diet, but I also say you shouldn't be following a diet. You want to eat for your body's metabolic type and make it fit your lifestyle. It's not a diet, it's your nutrition protocol to feel your best self.
So important. And if it doesn't align with our lives, that's how we fall off and we can't stick with it. And this is why I hear people say, I tried to eat healthy. I tried this diet. It doesn't work. And I think that is a key component to that is we need to figure out how to make it sustainable so it fits into our lives and then it can stick. And then it feels like second nature. So it becomes easy after a while. So there was something you pointed out, and it is the liquid food sources, a shake. Or, for example, and I pulled this from the internet this morning, we have a brand new smoothie shop that has come into town. It is a chain. Now, they offer all different varieties of smoothies, smoothie bowls. Now, one smoothie in particular was the highest on the list for sugar and carb content. So I wanted to pick your brain about this because we hear the word smoothie and we think healthy, right? So this particular smoothie, it's like a creamy strawberry mango smoothie. It has 119 grams of sugar and 149 grams of carbohydrate, 710 calories, 13 grams of fat, 18 grams of protein, 13 grams of fiber. So I
Okay.
would love for you to break this down for people because I think it's so hard to talk about macros and
Yes.
really understand why they're important and how they affect the body.
Absolutely. So first off, that's a lot of sugar at one
Mm,
meal, unless you're going and running a marathon. So
yes.
we have to look at the person's their demands on their body and what they need throughout the day. So in general, when we go to a lot of these smoothie places, there's a lot of the times the fruit is actually soaking in syrup, and that could be the case. So you could be going to your regular smoothie bar and it not be actually just fresh fruit. It could be sitting there that's actually soaking in a sugar syrup. And I love this analogy because I was told this by a nutritionist a long time ago and it kind of stuck with me. If you have a big bowl of fruit, okay, that's our carbohydrates, and you're not having it with a fat and a protein, what happens is you have that big insulin spike, and then 30 minutes later, you may find yourself crashing and you're hungry and you have more cravings. But if you're having that, so if we look at a smoothie, say we were to balance that out a little bit more, say we brought down the carbs to 40 grams, say we brought actually up the protein to 30 or 40 grams, and then we brought that fat up to 15 to 20 grams, it's going to have actually a more sustained energy for you, keep you feeling fuller and longer for maybe 3, 4 hours and tie you over to that next meal versus that big up and down. So when there's such a massive amount of sugar and carbs in there, not balanced out to that fat and that protein ratio, it's going to spike the insulin through the roof. And then it's going to cause you to have that crash. I always look at like a lot of those Starbucks Frappuccinos.
Yes.
My sister and me used to love the vanilla bean Frappuccino, crazy high in sugar. I stopped having them, but what I realized is she would need it in the mall. And then she would also need the sugar cinnamon pretzel. We'll throw that out there. But within an hour of having this, she turned into just crazy girl. It was like
Mm,
she got mean, she got it just like her mood changed. It's like she went up, she was so happy, and then boom, it was like a crash. And when we want fat loss, when we're looking for it, I like to say the better approach is a balanced approach. So if we say, for example, you're having 200 grams of carbs across your day, instead of having all of that, half of it at one meal, let's space that out between 3 to 4 meals. So
mm,
that way, even with your protein and your fat, so that you're having these more stable insulin spikes throughout the day that your body can regulate, your mood's going to be more stable, you're going to have less cravings, and you're going to feel better, more optimal, more vitality going on. Because
mm,
like I said, that's just going to cause you a big spike up and a big crash down because the macronutrient profile is not balanced. That is not enough. That's just too much sugar to have at one meal to have that with it. Again, if you're going and you're running a marathon and something different, that may be something completely different. But when you're going to these smoothie places, always see if they have the protein powders to add to it. Also, doing things like if they have hemp seeds available, that's a complete source of protein that you could throw in there as well. And then also looking and seeing, is their fruit actually soaked in the syrup or is it fresh fruit? Choosing maybe berries over a couple bananas because that's lower glycemic and higher fiber. Adding some almond butter to that smoothie for protein and extra fats. These are just
mm,
easy ways that you could, if you are eating out because we want the balance, to make different choices that's going to help support your metabolism and your energy and everything without causing you the big up and down. Find
Yeah.
that protein, add it in, get some healthy fats, throw them in there too, and then, choose the lower glycemic instead of the banana
Mhm.
overload. Not that they're bad, they're just
Yeah.
higher sugar if you're doing a couple of them in one smoothie.
And I always say do a little investigating before you choose a smoothie joint or a fast food chain smoothie. Look at the nutrition facts. Just pull it up online. Nutrition facts and ingredients list, because often you find they're actually maybe not even using fruit. It's ice and a sugary mix full of chemicals, all of the things we do not want to be putting in our bodies. So just do a little
Yeah.
research, and that's all it takes.
Yeah.
So the other thing we don't know with some of these chains is we don't know where they're sourcing
Right.
the ingredients. If it is fruits and vegetables, we don't know where they're coming from. So why is it so important to pay attention to organic, GMO foods? How does this play into our health and bodily function?
So we have to look at things like, were the crops sprayed? Is there glyphosate in there? How's our gut health? If we have a lot of leaky gut going on, you feel worse. So it really is dependent on the person. If we're able to make a healthy food choice and it's not always organic, that's not going to crush us. It is about having that balance. If you're able to make your food at home, you're going to end up saving money, and it doesn't have to be these crazy recipes. I mean, you could have your pressure cooker and your blender and make things very simple and easy for you and rotate your meals throughout the week. But I always try to, like, the dirty dozen is something that I tell my clients to follow. If things are berries, do your best to get organic. But if maybe it's a big melon over here that has a thicker skin, so you can, once in a while go towards non-organic for that. I really believe the meat quality, though, does
Mm.
matter, especially when we're looking at things like salmon, because a lot of those, there's a reason why they look super pink and they're farm raised. They're injected with dyes, and the omega-3 to 6 ratio is completely different, and they're grain fed. So my meat is the number one thing that I always make sure that I'm getting, grass fed, grass finished, or organic pasture raised poultry, wild caught with my fish, because all of that stuff does carry over. And then I do my best when it comes to my fruits and vegetables. Like, if it's a money thing, buy in season. If you buy in
Mm.
season, they have a lot more of that produce, and it's going to be cheaper. You could even buy it when it's on sale and freeze it. I do that with my blueberries all of the time, because they go from like $10 to like super cheap. So I buy a ton, I wash them, I freeze them, and then I have a ton of berries for, when they're not in season. And even finding local farmers markets. But if you shop seasonal, and you shop in bulk too, I have more in my freezer than I do in my fridge. I joke around and I say, I wish I could just reverse the two and have my fridge, since it's so big, as my freezer, because I love, cooking in bulk and buying all my fish and everything in bulk, so nothing is sitting in my fridge going bad, and I can have a lot of diversity in my diet throughout that week.
I love this. I do a lot of like frozen fruits and vegetables, and I'll just like fill a sheet pan of chicken and vegetables, and I'll roast it. And I have something all week. I can add whatever I want to it for a carbohydrate or a starch, and you have a whole meal waiting for you in the fridge. That is something else I think is super important, to learn how to sustain healthy eating habits, because it's so hard to stay consistent when life is busy. It's really tough. So, what are some of the top ways to simplify healthy eating?
If you sit down and you plan out your week and you don't overload yourself into one day trying to do 100 things at once, you're going to become more productive. You're going to have more time for you, and the stress is going to go down. So that
Mm.
is like my top tip. If we're feel like we have no time, there always is time, but it's how are we utilizing that time, and how can we make our time more efficient? The
Yeah.
second key element is, if your week is crazy busy, you don't need to be eating the same thing at every meal, but maybe have your one day where you have it hit your macros, and you follow that Monday through Friday. And then on the weekends, you have your balance, you try some new recipes, and then the next week you change it up. That way, you're not thinking every day needs to be a new recipe, but you're still able to actually get diversity of your diet throughout that month and not feel so overwhelmed with it. That's another tip that I have. And then my third tip would be to keep it stupid simple by keeping easy things in your house. So Whole Foods has, frozen pre-cooked quinoa organic, and, Wild Planet they have all of the wild caught fish in the cans, like the sardines that are high in omega-3, low in mercury. There's salmon, so that you're able to have these grab and go things that you can pair, your rice cakes with your avocado and your wild caught salmon in the can, and pull things together that are going to balance your blood sugar with when you don't have the time to make the meal. Because sometimes we don't have the time. Grab your thermos out, dump some things in a can that you have, mix
Mm.
it all together, mash some avocado in it, and keep it stupid simple.
So we talk about nutrition and quality of food being so important. Can we shift gears just a little bit and talk about fitness? I would
Yes.
love for you to talk about the importance of weight training and exercise for somebody with chronic pain. It can seem impossible to start a fitness journey of any kind when you're in pain. How do you approach that?
This is something that I actually get a lot of clients with. I have clients that come to me that will have like fibromyalgia, Hashimoto's going on, and they're like, Elizabeth, I want to transform my body, but I'm pushing and I don't even have energy anymore. And we always think we need to do these 5, 6 days a week bodybuilder splits or excessive cardio to get the results. And there's a few different ways of approaching it. Number one, as we're getting older, we do want to be having some form of resistance on the body. It's important for our bones. It's important for muscle that helps with our metabolism, that helps with longevity. So we don't want to cut this out, but we don't need to go from one extreme to the next. We have to work while we're healing the gut, while we're getting the energy back up, and while we're supporting the nutrition and the lifestyle side, slowly incorporating the fitness to have that body composition change. So, in terms of training, I would say 3 days a week is a great start for people. And if we're able to do more full body, that's going to allow us to get enough of a stimulus spread out throughout the week so that we're able to not feel so sore we can't move, but we're
Mm.
also able to see those changes and recover from our workouts. When it comes to the types of training, so we want to apply the progressive overload, so increasing the weight over time. This could be done with, of course, functional training in terms of dumbbells. Cables are great. I love mixing those in with my clients because it creates time under tension. Even
Mhm.
doing things like the reformer is a great way because you're having those machines with the resistance and it gets your core. So it's really about finding the type of exercise that you enjoy, that you're able to do consistently, that your body feels best with. But
Mm.
the strength training is a huge part of it, having the progressive overload. But it's one thing to push the body. You need to work on the gut, the hormones, and everything first. My client Gina, she came to me and she had chronic fibromyalgia. She did the lap band surgery. She did the Ozempic. She's now was having to sleep all weekend to have enough energy to be with her kids for just 2 hours. And she was an athlete. Now she post-menopause now,
Yeah.
and she's like, Elizabeth, like, I love training and I can't train anymore. So we started her off slowly with 3 days. I did everything with her gut health. By the end of the 90 days, she went from 900 calories to 1700, down 25 pounds. She's now down over
Wow.
60 pounds. And she also had lipidemia. So all
Mm.
of the fluid, everything gone within a month. And she's back to the gym 5 days a week now with full energy because she loves it. But if you
Mm.
see, it was a progression. It was a progression of her gut, her hormones, her lifestyle, slowly weaning her way in. And as she felt better, things started going. It's about training smarter versus harder.
Do you recommend spacing out the workout days and having rest days in between, especially in the beginning?
Absolutely. I always say, like, if you're doing 3 days a week, try a day in between.
Mm,
for it. Do a nice light walk to move your body. You don't have to be laying in bed all the time. You can do yoga or stretching, but it doesn't need to be some crazy hit strenuous activity every single day. You have to listen to your body, and we have to train for our hormones. And if we're going through these chronic fatigue and everything, if you're training like beast mode all the time, it could be
mm.
backfiring on you. And then you're not going to have as effective workouts, and your recovery isn't going to allow you to see the results that you want.
I even recommend if somebody's really hesitant to start moving their body, just start stretching. Stretch
Yeah.
even 5 minutes every morning, and then eventually you will start to feel the difference in your body. And it's just the natural next best step to start incorporating a little more movement and trying something new.
Yeah.
So even that's a great place to start. Let's say there's one person who is listening right now who doesn't feel as if healing is possible for them. They have chronic pain. It just feels like this is their life sentence. They've tried everything. What is your one message for that person listening right now?
Anybody can heal your body, but you have to believe that you can heal. I was in a place where I labeled myself with every chronic issue that I had. I'm SIBO, I'm mast cell activation. I would look up stories. I would think I was never going to get better because all these other people weren't getting better. And after spending $20,000, $30,000 going to different doctors, I felt frustrated.
Mhm.
But it really is about, there's an incredible movie called Heal by Dr. Joe Dispenza. And he shares all of these women that were going these crazy health conditions that no one could even diagnose. And through the power of the mind, the meditation, believing that they could heal, they overcame all of them. So I really believe that anybody can heal their body. I've seen it firsthand with me and thousands of women that I worked with, but you need to find the right person to help you get there.
Mm.
That is going to be a key. You need someone that's gone through it because they actually understand what's happening to you, that can take a root cause, but you also have to believe in them and believe that you can heal. Because if you don't believe it, your body is going to be, it's going to hold itself back. It's the
Mhm.
mind, the body connection.
That's beautiful and it's so true. And I think forgetting the idea that there is a magic pill because there
Yes.
truly is no magic pill. It takes time, it takes patience, and it takes commitment and the right person to walk the path with you. Liz, you have an incredible YouTube channel. So I'm going to link everything in the show notes so people can connect with
Thank
you.
you.
Where else can we find you?
I am everywhere. So Elizabeth Aylor Fitness, like Taylor without the T. I am all over Instagram and YouTube are my two big platforms. I also do a live masterclass called my 3-step gut and hormone reset. And all of that too is in my Instagram bio. But yeah, I'm TikTok, Facebook, you name it. But Instagram and YouTube are my big, if you want to learn more education, that's where I love to
Great.
talk.
And you have a podcast as well. Is
Yes,
that
it's
correct?
the Iron Beauty podcast.
Okay.
And I chose Iron Beauty because iron is strong, and then being strong is beautiful, and it has EA in there, which is my initials and beautiful.
Yes.
But it's on Spotify, it's everywhere, and then I also have it on my YouTube as a video podcast as well.
Liz, thank you so much for being
Thank
on the
you.
show.
Thank you for having me today. I'm so grateful.
To the busy woman juggling it all, don't let your autoimmune disease hold you back from enjoying your life. Your path to an energized, pain-free life starts here with the Autoimmune Reboot, a 6-month virtual coaching program for women who are ready to take control of their health and life. In 6 months, you will learn to heal chronic pain, get your strength back, look like you in the mirror again, and never have to reach for that 3 p.m. espresso. Don't let your autoimmune symptoms get in the way of the important moments in your life. The doors are open. Don't waste another day in pain. Click the link in the show notes to claim your seat today. I hope this podcast has helped you in your autoimmune journey. If you find value and inspiration in this episode, please leave a 5-star rating and review and share the episode with a friend. When you do, you are helping this podcast reach people around the world who are ready to live a pain-free life. The information and opinions shared in this podcast are for educational and informational purposes only. The content within this podcast is not a substitute for professional care. Always seek the advice of a physician or medical professional to answer health-related questions. Implementing the advice shared on this podcast should be done at your own risk. Actions taken by listeners as a result of the content shared on this podcast is not the responsibility of the host or creator. This podcast does not endorse and is not affiliated with treatments or products mentioned in this podcast unless otherwise specified. Products or treatments shared in this podcast are for informational purposes only. Always seek the advice of a medical professional for answers to product or treatment questions. All content, including but not limited to text, graphics, logos, and material shared under the Autoimmune Reboot podcast, is protected by copyright and all applicable laws. Any kind of unauthorized distribution or use of this content is strictly prohibited and will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Listening to this podcast is acknowledging your agreement with these terms.